Good morning, bonjour, everybody. I think that um, people are starting to join, which is good. Um, I'm going to start in about 30 seconds just to make sure. Yeah, don't hesitate to say that you're in the room on the chat. Thanks a lot. Bonjour à tous, bonjour à toutes et à tous. Many thanks. I see all the messages coming in. That's very kind of you. Thanks a lot. I think there's quite a good number of people today. Very, very happy about it. Merci à toutes et à tous d'être là. I will speak mostly in English, but I will also try and oscillate sometimes in French if need be. So this is a presentation from the French Education Office of the French Embassy in the UK, the Institut Français du Royaume-Uni Cultural Services. And I am Benoît Le Dévédec. I'm the French Language Attaché to the French Education Office. So I will present some of the offers that we have available to support schools and teachers of French in the UK. And I'll try to respect the time that has been allocated to me, which is 45 minutes. And as I'm a bit of a talkative person, I'll try and respect that as much as possible. Just a few words about our French cultural network in the UK. So in case you didn't know, but we have 2 Instituts Français, which are government-run organizations, and 11 Alliances Françaises. So Alliances Françaises are local independent organizations, but they're also sisters to the Institut Français. They're part of our sister network, cultural network in the UK. And our mission is to promote French language and culture in the UK, as well as to foster educational and cultural exchanges between our 2 countries. So, with these 13 organizations, we organize hundreds of cultural events throughout the year. We also offer French courses for all ages. And on average, we have about 15,000 students per year, which is very, very important. There's a website that you can go to in order to find out about each of these organizations, whether a local Alliance Française. If you live near one of these Alliances Françaises, I really encourage you to contact them and see whether they have any French courses, any cultural events, maybe any training for teachers as well, because most of them actually do that as well. And of course, with us at the Institut Français in London or in Edinburgh, if you're based in Scotland. But our network is, if we take the bigger picture, I mean, these 2 Instituts Français, these 11 Alliances Françaises in the UK are part of a broader network of cultural institutes and alliances around the world, with about 100 Instituts Français and 800 Alliances Françaises throughout the world. So that's part of the general cultural network of the French government, of the French state abroad. And in the UK, we are also very lucky to have a broad network of French schools. So I'm mentioning that because you may not be working with some of these schools, but I know that many of you, teachers of French in UK schools, are also involved in French supplementary schools. So we have 15 French curriculum schools in the UK, including 13 in London. So that's quite a lot of French curriculum schools. They're actually French international schools. So they welcome students, pupils from all backgrounds, international families, British families as well. And they teach the French curriculum, but in a bilingual setting. So they are really preparing students and pupils for higher education, for the best universities, and giving them all the chances to be prepared for the world of tomorrow, to become global citizens. So we have also 53 French supplementary schools, which is a big network. It's actually the biggest network of French supplementary schools. These are Saturday schools, and they are dedicated to pupils who are educated in a British school during the week, but who may not have access to French education at all beyond the French classes that they have in their British schools. But these pupils come from French heritage backgrounds. They may have a French parent or French-speaking Francophone parent. And so they are interested in pursuing their education in French. So we've got a big network of these supplementary schools. And I really invite you to connect with them because they also provide great opportunities for exchanges with native speakers, with heritage speakers, with creating a bond and very interesting cultural relations with the French community in the UK. And we have 3 labeled France Education schools. So labeled schools are actually schools that teach a national curriculum, in that case, the English national curriculum, but schools that do that in a bilingual setting. And we have now 3 UK schools. There are state sector schools, 2 in London and 1 in Colham, south of Oxford, which actually teach a bilingual curriculum based on the English national curriculum. So these are very strong partner schools as well. And you can find all of these schools by clicking on this link at the bottom of the page. It's just going to appear again. And I will share the PowerPoint. I will explain where this PowerPoint will be available after the presentation. All right, so now let's come to the matter at hand. The question for all of us today is le français. So that's fine, all right. So that's one of the many foreign languages that you can learn in the UK. Le français, oui, but why? Which is an excellent question, of course. I have to say that there is one obvious reason that comes to my mind right away. And the most obvious reason is that French is the language of love. So, for instance, if you haven't found yet your sweetheart, or if you would like to rekindle some magic in your relationship, I strongly advise you to take up some French lesson. I mean, that will do you a lot of good. But being more serious, I mean, that's obviously a good reason, but there are many, of course, other reasons to learn French. And one of them is that it's a very dynamic, modern, growing global language. And I'm going to show you why with this little presentation from the International Francophonie Organization. Right, so some of you may be familiar with this video. It's from the International Organization of Francophonie. And I think that's very interesting because you can show it to your students as well to tell them how the French language has evolved over the past years. So as I said, it's a very growing, it's a fast growing global language. There are today 300 million French speakers in the world. French is spoken on the 5 continents. It's spoken in 29 countries, over 100 countries, including 29 countries that have French as their official language. And what is important as well is that half of the French speakers in the world live in Africa, which is a very interesting point to stress, because French is an increasingly diverse language. It's global, it's shared by many countries, it's spoken together with other languages. It's generally not the only language that is spoken in many countries that have French as their official language. So it's a language in sharing, as we like to call it. And that's very important to stress, just if only to mention to your pupils that you can't sum up French by the French baguette and beret or the Eiffel Tower. Of course, French and French language is much more than that today. As you can see, and as I was saying, French is one of the fastest global languages today. If you take the demographic data for the countries that have French as their official language, you can see that these countries have the fastest growing population. And so French will be more and more increasingly represented in the world through the demographic growth of these countries. And that's an interesting fact to point out as well. In terms of usefulness, because most of the time people say, okay, that's very interesting. French is global, it's diverse. It's not only France, it's North America, it's Quebec, it's the Caribbean, it's also the many countries in Africa. But what about us in the UK? Is that interesting for us? Well, yes, there was a study by the British Council called Languages for the Future, which was published in 2017. And I'm assuming the previous study was published in 2013. I'm assuming that there will be another study in the year to come. But according to the latest data, French was the first language rated in terms of the percentage of companies rating this language, French, as useful to their organization. That's a very interesting point to stress as well, because French is actually the 7th most important economy in the world and the 2nd largest economy in the UK. And exchanges between France and the UK are very, very important. We have about the same importance that is laid out in terms of job vacancies requiring a foreign language. And French comes first, according to that study as well, among job offers from companies in the UK. In terms of UK exports of goods and services, and the main markets for these exports, France is the third country of most importance after the United States and Germany. So this is also a very interesting point to lay out here, and also noting that this is growing. So it's a growing tendency. So overall, if you look at the evolution of the place of French from the previous study in 2013 to the latest study published in 2017, French has actually grown in terms of importance for economic purposes in the UK, which is not a good reason to promote it. Now, it's not just only about the economy, of course, it's also about education and educational opportunities for youth students. And as you can see here, in terms of international mobility of UK students, France is actually, France and the French language comes second in terms of importance. Of course, there's the United States, which is prevalent in terms of special relationship between the UK and the US, but France and the importance of the French language comes second. It's also the case for international research collaboration, where you can see that France and the French language arrives third in this rating. So overall, according to this survey from the British Council in 2017, among the top languages for international education, French is the first language, which is very important to note. I'd like to stress that we have among the best universities in the world, top ranked universities in the world in France, and the French higher education system is also very affordable compared to other countries in the world, which is another good reason to take French in consideration when you decide to implement a language or when you would like to promote it to your students. So more generally speaking, in terms of cultural, educational, diplomatic, and security purposes, French is the top language according to that survey, taking over Spanish actually from 2013 and actually growing in that case. And generally, as part of this study, French is among the top 5 languages for the UK to learn in a post-Brexit context. So this is very, very interesting to note. There are indeed many companies, and sometimes less known, that it's important to present to your students. I'm thinking about video games developer like Ubisoft. I don't want to promote, any specific company, but just to quote a few examples. There's the fashion industry, Studio Macduff in terms of animation movie, the automobile industry. Of course, we mentioned higher education, which is very, very important. We've got a great organization called Campus France, and I really enjoin you to take a look at this website if you'd like to promote higher education opportunities to your students in the UK. And more generally, in terms of culture, the whole diversity of the French-speaking world, with the Stromae, for instance, who has African roots and who's also from Belgium. Of course, the diversity of French cinema, North American French with Quebec, Belgium, we mentioned it as well. The African continent, I'm showing Fatoumata Diawara, the Malian singer who recently did a collaboration with Damon Albarn from Blur. That's all very interesting. And in that song, entitled Désolé, she sings in both French and Bambara, which is also a native language of Mali. And of course, I forgot to mention an obvious reason as well to promote French. Everybody's talking about this TV series. I don't want to be promoting it more particularly, but it's important to remind us that French and France, actually France is the world's top destination for tourism with about 88 million visitors per year. So French will come in very, very handy if you'd like to visit France and the regions of France. Because France is not to be summed up to its capital, of course, and more generally to visit other regions where French is spoken around the world, whether in the Caribbean, in Africa, or of course in North America. Something else I'd like to tackle as well. Some people say, well, French is more difficult than other languages to learn. Well, that's a myth that must be broken and defeated right now, I have to say. There is no scientific evidence that French is actually harder to learn than any other languages. And it's actually been shown by linguists that French and English have a lot of things in common. They share 27% of their words or lexical similarity, and there are different linguistic sources that estimate that 45% of words in English are actually of French origin. We share hundreds of years of history, and there are very, very strong links and between our two countries. And that's also a good reason to work on that during your French classes. There is this proximity, this historical proximity, all of these shared histories. this I mean, all of the big moments in history have been shared between our two countries, and that's also very important to remind pupils about this. Now, in terms of difficulty, I'm just mentioning some comparison here between French and Spanish, and my Spanish friends will hate me for this, and I love Spanish, but just some examples here, like French has just 2 words for you, okay, the singular, familiar, and plural formal, while Spanish has 4. Or even 5. And there's even a different singular familiar used in parts of Latin America with its own conjugations. And there are actually even more tenses and moods in Spanish. So these are just some examples. Maybe I'm being a bit of a bad faith, presenter here, and I don't want to be laying any comparison, but just let's stop this myth about French being more difficult than any other languages. This is simply not true. Okay. Something that is also of interest that might be helpful to convince your students of learning French is to show examples of people in Britain who actually learned French and for whom French played a key role in their careers. And I'd like to play a very, very short video from Callum Davis, who's the Cardiff City Football Club liaison officer. So he works with foreign players, and he's explaining in a very, very short video why French played a key role in his career.
The primary focus is to firstly welcome any players that arrive into Cardiff, so any players that are transferred into the club, help them get settled, help their families get settled within the area, and also get used to the club's functions. And then, yeah, like linguistically, obviously we have some French players here at the club, so a large part of helping them get settled is to make sure they're clear and understood. And I've had the chance to meet a lot of French speaking players while I've been here, and made some good friends as well along the way. Learning languages is an enormously important skill, especially in today's climate. I think that it allows you to be a lot more open-minded. Essentially, the world is becoming a much smaller place nowadays, and I think the ability to speak different languages can allow you to build relationships with people you wouldn't necessarily expect to. It's got me to a place where I wouldn't have expected to be in 6 or 7 years ago. So I'm very fortunate.
Okay, so that's one example. I'm not going to play another example, but which is also very, very telling. It's a video that was made by students from London Academy of Excellence, Tottenham, which is a state sector high school in the London area, and where they explain why they decided to pursue studying languages at A level. And I think that's very, very interesting, because you can actually show your pupils, your students, that there are other students who decided to take up that language beyond GCSE and actually take it at A level, and for whom French and other languages as well, because these students are actually learning many other languages, will play a key role for their career and for their opportunities in terms of higher education and in life more generally. All right, so let's come to the gist of our presentation after this general introduction about the state of French and state of French in the UK. So resources for schools and teachers of French in the UK. There are many, many resources that some of you may be familiar with already, but I'm just going to give a quick overlook about all of them. So one of the go-to places I have to stress right away is EFProf. So EFProf is a collaborative platform for teachers of French in the world. It was created a couple of years ago. There are today 40,000 members around the world in over 100 countries. And we have a page for the UK. So if you can click on the map here, right to the UK or to your space, it just takes, not even a minute to create an account. Everything is free. And on this page, you will find a lot of resources, events, as well as training opportunities that we advertise, competitions for schools. This is basically our social network for French teachers. It's in the world, but it's also in the UK, so you've got UK specific content. So what is interesting is that you've got this search engine, and if I'm typing COVID, you will find a lot of resources, methodology, linked to extra resources as well. that have been produced and shared by other teachers in the world from wherever they are, like there's someone in Indonesia, in Brazil, in China, in Morocco. So you can see all of these resources and you can fine tune your research according to what you're looking for. If you're looking just for pedagogical resources, you click on that. If you're looking for a specific age group or a specific CEFR level, you can also decide to do it. Like I'm going to click on the 10-15 age category, and you can see that some colleagues at the Institut Français in Germany have published some activities here available, which is level A, which is the first level of the Common European Framework, and they're all calibrated for the age group 10 to 15. So that's very, very interesting. So I really invite you to create an account on this platform. It's free, it only takes minutes. And what is also interesting is that you can publish your own resources, and you can also create groups. So if you'd like to create a private group in your school, you can decide to create one. And so the resources that will be published on this group will only be accessible to people who have joined that group. And you can be the person leading that group, so you authorize or not people who would like to join that group. So that's very interesting because every group has a dedicated forum, and you can post events, info, so that are just private. So that's an interesting option to consider. The other resource, of course, that I'd like to insist on right away is CultureTech. CultureTech is our free digital online library. It's available everywhere in the world as well, but it's free in the UK. So that's one particularity of CultureTech UK, is that it's freely accessible to anyone in the UK. You can be a parent, you can be a teacher, you can be a pupil. It's very easy to access. You just need to create an account. And then all of the resources that are there, and there are more than 200,000 resources, are entirely free and come in different types. So you've got, for instance, access to French magazines and newspapers, essays, novels. So these are like more for French speakers, what you can see here, because they might be more difficult for students who are learning a language, although they might not be that difficult for higher education students learning a language. But of course, there is a section that is dedicated to teaching and learning French. And on that section, you'll find a lot of resources that are calibrated for young learners, for people who are just new with the French language. And as you can see, the platform is available in English, so it's very easy to navigate on it, even if you don't speak French. For teachers, for instance, you've got the primary French resources. Primary French resources are full comprehensive pack of hands-on resources for primary, for Key Stage 2, from year 3 to year 6. And they consist in PowerPoint presentations with embedded audio files that can be used by teachers at primary who have little to no knowledge of the French language, because you can just use the PowerPoint, you play the audio files, and the kids just repeat what they hear. They can see, distinguish the spelling, the writing from the sound, and it's very well made. They were designed by Catherine Cheetah, who is a primary language specialist in the UK, together with many other collaborators with Association for Language Learning and Network for Languages. But as you scroll down, you see that there are more than the primary French resources, of course. You've got all of these picture books of French in easy read, and they're all basically sorted according to the Common European Framework of Reference level. So very accessible, very easy to navigate. Let me just pick one, Mystère aux eaux de Carapaud. So as you can see, it's calibrated as A1, so accessible to beginners in the category French as a foreign language. And so let's try and see it. Let's try and read it. So there's an online reader that pops out in a different tab. Okay, let me see if that works. So you can access this book, and you've got the text, and you can even, let me check.
Le printemps est arrivé et, aux eaux de Carapaud, de nombreux bébés animaux sont nés.
Right, so you see that you can play the audio as well as the reading. So you can use that on an interactive whiteboard, for instance, or you can even send the link to parents who'd like to read the stories or would like to play the stories to their kid. And I just picked one book at random here, but there are so many others available, and all come, most of them, not all of them, but the great majority of them come with embedded audio files. So that's very interesting, even as a teacher, to be able to play the embedded audio, because that would very much help, you know, the students and the pupils discover different accents, different ways of pronouncing the language beyond your own pronunciation of the language or other teachers that might teach French in your school. So these are very, very useful resources. So you have this menu, and you can also listen to music. Let me scroll down again, all of these resources, but there are plenty of them. I really invite you to explore this platform. Again, everything is free on the platform. You've got, as I said before, you can listen to some tunes, some contemporary music by French-speaking artists, not just from France, but from around the world, from Africa, from North Africa, as well as from North America as well. And French in easy reads. So for instance, if we take the A2 level, that might be well suited for key stage 3 and 4. So actually for GCSE preparation as well. And there's a lot available here. And if you get into B1, you'll be able to find resources that are perfect for high school students as well, for sixth form. All right. Let me move on to another great resource that is also linked in the PowerPoint presentation that will be shared later on. It's called EF Cinema. And EF Cinema, I'm not sure you're familiar with it yet, but it's a platform where you can actually download movies to be screened in your classroom, in your school. It gives you the authorization to use these movies, this selection of movies, for education purposes. So the list of movies available is constantly updated. And there's even a special selection for education and for teaching French as a foreign language. Right, so there's, for instance, we are entering Christmas time. There's a selection of movies that are recommended here that you can download as well. There's also the months of the documentary film with a special selection of documentaries that are available on the platform. So that's, you can just, you know, click on this link and discover all of these movies. And there is the Festival of the Animation Movies. So that's very interesting, because for that one, you can also, let me click on that one to see what's available. Okay, then let me try again, because I don't think that the link work. Yeah, okay, so that works. So this is this specific section. I guess that's my, all right, now it seems to be working back. I hope my connection is not too weak now, but it seems to have gone back now. There's a selection which is learning French with cinema. And now it's working, perfect. So for that one, you have a selection of different movies, and all of these movies that you can see here, they actually come with pedagogical kits. So you can use these kits to teach French to your students. And that's very interesting, because there are lots of suggested activities. They are very easy to implement. They're also organized by different CEFR levels. So that's very useful if you want to calibrate the level of difficulties, the type of exercises you'd like to work with your students. And the way you have access to these movies is simply by signing up on EF Cinema. And then you mention that you're a French teacher, and then you will be given access. Everything is free. And then you request a film, and you get the movie as a download file together with the pedagogical kit. So it's very, very easy to use. Another similar platform is Et en plus, je chante en français. So for that platform, you have a lot of songs and pedagogical kits as well to work on a different selection of artists. So this is what you saw in Culture Tech is also available as a standalone app, which is called Diversities. Right, so I'm not sure that my connection is actually working great. So let me try and relaunch the page here. Yeah, now it's working, or it should be working. Right, so et en plus je chante en français, a standalone app which will be very useful for you to actually have your students discover various resources and learn French through songs. Another great platform for you to work on French is TV5. TV5 has a French language interface, and you can choose between two different platforms, Learn French or Teach French. So as a teacher, you will choose Teach French, and for that you have access to over 800 activity sheets based on different themes and topics of the current French-speaking world. And what is interesting is that you can access these resources by selecting a specific age group, as you can see here, or different CEF4 level. So I'm not going to navigate on that, but everything is free basically again, and that's very useful. And if you want to, you can also send your students a link to access the Learn French platform, Apprendre le français, which will also present a lot of activities that are available for the students with interactive online exercises. So if you work on a specific topic using the Teach French resources, you can also find matching resources in the Learn French section that your pupils or students can work from home. I'd also like to mention the TV5 Monde Plus, which is a Francophone Netflix platform, except that it's entirely free. That's the main difference. And it has contents from the main French media groups in France, Belgium, as well as Quebec. So that's very interesting. You have access to a lot of TV series, movies, documentaries, comedies, from France, from Quebec, from Belgium as well. And they all come with subtitles. So that's also very interesting to exploit in a French classroom context. Something that we can offer at the Institute for your school are our school activities program. So school activities are workshops, cultural workshops that are run by teachers from the Institut Français in London, and they are available now online. So I really invite you to contact my colleague Agathe, who is in charge of the school activities program. And there are various activities that are available to different age groups, from primary to secondary. You can do a virtual trip to Paris, for instance. You can read comic books for primary with our teachers and educators from the library team. So these are not free, but they are very affordable, and they come at £50 price tag for an hour workshop, 45-minute to an hour workshop. So I really invite you to consult with my colleague Agathe about that. Something I'd like to mention, which is really coming up this week, is the South Can Kids Festival. South Can Kids Festival is a French illustrator and youth literature festival. There are plenty of live streaming events, virtual exhibitions as well, and it's running from tomorrow until the 22nd of November. So the whole festival is accessible online, and there are paying events as well as free events. So you can just, decide on the type of event you'd like to select. There are some events that are specifically geared to some age groups. So I invite you to check, which age groups you'd like to target, but they are there and they are available, and it's coming all this week with many events for free. So I really encourage you to take a look at this. All right, something that I'd like to mention as well, I would strongly encourage you or your school to become a member of the Institut Français. This will grant you access to borrowing a lot of documents from the Institut Français if you live in the London area, but you can also order some books for free through the French box system. And with our French box, you can order up to 30 items, picture books, comic books, novels, bilingual books. We have selections for ages 3 to 15, and you just write to our library. It's entirely free. They just send you the books and you just pay for shipping them back. And actually the French box system is even accessible for non-member schools and non-member teachers. So this is accessible year-round throughout for everyone. So I encourage you to try and contact our library team in London, and they'll get you more information for that. We have a special concession rate for teachers as well for our classic membership, and this will give you concession and special discount rates for our events, as well as some free event access during the year. So we mentioned these events, school activities programs, self-care and kids festival, there is something else coming up. It's called the Night of Ideas. So Night of Idea is a debate event that takes place at the end of January every year. And the Institut Français has developed for the past 2 or 3 years a special program for the little ones. It's called the Little Night of Ideas. And this year we've been very, very ambitious because we have launched a big call for schools' participation. We have launched 2 creative projects where we are inviting schools to take part. One is a virtual postcard project. So it's an exchange project between schools. So teachers are invited in primary to write virtual postcards on using Padlet, the Padlet's virtual wall. And there will be a virtual exhibition space where we will help schools to get in contact with one another. So either French schools with English schools, or even supplementary schools with standard regular week schools. And there's also a project for secondary schools. It's called the Sensitive Map Project, in which students for secondary from key stage 3 to key stage 5 to sixth form are invited to create maps based on their own emotions of their surrounding areas. So the overarching theme is togetherness, which is a very important one, especially in this context. And it's all free to participate. The rules are explained in French or English. You can take part in the project in French and English, and there will be plenty of exciting prizes to win. So I really encourage you to take a look at that, and the link will be available after the presentation. Something of interest as well, if you're into cinema, is the French Film Festival UK, Festival du Film Français, which is starting basically, it will take place online this year from the 27th of November to the 4th of December. So there's going to be a lot of movies screened online. I invite you to take a look here. That can be a complement to the EF Cinema platform. And that's also a great way of supporting cinema, especially in this difficult time for the industry, with a lot of movies that will be relevant to you. If you're in Northern Ireland, there's a festival that we like to take part in every year. That's called the Francofest Festival in Belfast. It's a tourism and trade simulation project in French for secondary schools. So if you're based in Northern Ireland, I really invite you to take a look at this project and contact our friends from NICILT, Northern Ireland Centre for Information on Language Teaching. And hopefully, we hope that this project will be able to take place this year, given the sanitary conditions, of course. We have a lot of competitions for schools, very exciting ones. There's a French debating competition for sixth form students. Every year there are about 200 sixth form students throughout England and Wales who take part in this competition, with a grand final in London at the Institut Français for the International Francophonie Day at the end of March. So if you work in a sixth form school, I invite you to contact us to see if you'd like your students to take part in it. And we are also offering a limited number of free French debating workshops for state sector schools that would like to enter the competition this year. So this is thanks to the support of the Francophonie organization, Quebec, Canada, Wallonie, as well as Monaco and Switzerland. And we are all sponsoring a limited number of workshops to help your students debate in French. So if you'd like to benefit from it, just contact us. That's my colleague Emma's email at the bottom of this presentation. Again, this will be available later on, and I encourage you to take a look at that. And there's, of course, the French pop video competition, which is open to schools from primary to secondary. This will be launched at the end of the month, and we are inviting schools basically to write songs in French and film an original video clip of it. So we had this year we had we received about 30 videos despite the lockdown, and the year before we received 90 videos, which was a record for the first edition of this event. So we are conducting that event again this year, and we hope that there will be many schools to participate, with a lot of exciting prizes to win as well. If you're not familiar with the French diplomas, I encourage you to take a look at the DELF examinations, especially the DELF Prime and DELF Junior examinations. These are French official diplomas from the Ministry of Education in France. and they are highly regarded in the world of work, basically, and at higher education. So they can help you integrate universities in France, but they're also a bonus for British universities, and they are a strong asset on your student's CV. What is also important is that they are based on real-life communicative approach and not just on solving a series of tricks to answer a few questions, as some tests may be like. But this is not the case of the DELF diplomas. They are really based on real-life communication, and they are highly valued in the world. They are internationally recognized, and they can help make a student's CV stand out, especially when applying for a job. And they're available for primary as well as secondary. We can also train you to become an official examiner trainer for DELF examination. And if you'd like to do that, you can contact my colleague Axel, whose email is indicated on this slide. All right, let's move on. I think we'll probably finish a bit late, but I know that I can hang on for a few minutes after the time is up. But if you'd like to also develop some exchanges with France, there's a platform that is very useful. It's called eTwinning, that puts schools in contact from across Europe. And the UK is still part of the eTwinning platform. So if you're interested, I will strongly encourage you to create an account on this platform. And there are actually many schools that are already part of this platform in the UK, with over 15,000 schools registered on eTwinning. So I think that's a very interesting platform, and I encourage every school there to try to find another project with a school in France or in Europe at large. If you're looking for another partner school, there's another way, another route of doing it is by contacting the British Council with the School Partner Finder page on their website. And you can also contact one of our French regional educational authorities, and there's the address here to contact them, and send them your project, asking if you could be matched with a school in their region. And if you have still difficulties finding a schools to match for an exchange project, please write to us at the Education Office. We'll be happy to assist you with this. There are plenty of other resources that we could speak about. French language assistants. This year there are 230 French language assistants in UK schools throughout the country. They are really a very, very rich resource, authentic French cultural person in your classroom, and they will strongly help you boost your students' results. Let me move on to other resources here before we get on. If you'd like to put a bit of French in your classroom, you can also download our free posters. They are available on EFProf. They are downloadable in very high resolution, so you can print them in different formats to put a bit of France in your classroom. So that's also interesting for you. Teacher training, before I leave you or I take some time for some questions. The Institut Français trains about 600 teachers per year, which is quite big. And we've got many training events coming up this autumn and winter. So I mentioned the primary French resources earlier. We are conducting several training webinars. The next one is on Wednesday. It will be run by Jenny Carpenter at 5 p.m. And this webinar will be about transition in Key Stage 3. So it's called Primary French, but it's about transition in Key Stage 3. I really encourage you to sign up. All of these webinars are free. There will be another one in December about using action-based pedagogy to prepare for the DELF diploma. There's, as part of Journée Internationale du Prof, a primary French event in Newcastle. That's part of our support of the Newcastle City of Languages event. That's on Thursday at 2 p.m., all free and open to everyone. And our big year event for teachers, which is called the French Teachers Day 2020, which will take place on Saturday, the 28th of November. And let me just show you the program. So this year we've got an exceptional panel of speakers with, so it's going to run from 9:30 to 3 p.m. It's all free again. There will be a session by Joe Dale. There will be another session by Adrien Payet, who is a stage director, who is a specialist of using theater techniques to teach French in a very interactive way. We will have breakout session to use TV5 Monde. So if you're not familiar on how to use TV5 Monde, you'll be able to know how to use them in the classroom for either primary or secondary. and we'll have Franck Lecard from a regional authority of Montpellier in the south of France, who will explain how to develop exchange projects, including virtual exchange projects with a school in the Montpellier area. I think that would be all for now. There are plenty of other fantastic resources for free that I would strongly encourage you to visit through these websites. And something of an announcement as well, if you'd like to brush up your French, if you feel like your French needs a little boost, you can sign up for a French course, of course, with one of our 2 Instituts Français and 11 Alliances Françaises in the UK. And the Institut Français in London is actually offering a limited time 20% discount on some of their French courses. So if you sign up before tomorrow midnight, actually, but you can get a special 20% discount on morning intensive general French classes or evening express French classes. So that's an interesting offer to consider if you'd like to brush up your French, as I said. Again, if you'd like to know more about the Institut Français, about our cultural events, about all of the opportunities that we offer in terms of talks, debates, most of them are online, and all of them are online actually, please visit our website, institutfrançais.org.uk, and stay in touch, of course, with our education team. This is a link to subscribe to our newsletter. There's a website to access general information about education, and you're free, of course, to contact us anytime at this email address. And I think that's all for me. Just a bit late, but I'll be on to answer a few questions. Many thanks again. Félicitations à toutes et à tous pour votre engagement en faveur de la langue française au Royaume-Uni. I'll stop sharing my screen and I will try to take a look at the chat. I see a lot of questions. I'm not sure I'll be able to answer all of them. Oh, there's a question about EF Cinema. Can students watch the film in their own time, or do they have to watch it in class? They have to watch it in class. You're only allowed to use the file when screening it in a classroom setting. Yeah, so it doesn't work as a video on demand platform, but it's very useful for you. You can download the movie and screen it anytime as part of your classroom setting. Yes, some people interested in the French pop video competition, so we will soon advertise for it. And yeah, I think that's probably the first reflex to have is to sign up to the EF Prof platform. So I'm just going to type, can I type something? Panelists and attendees, yes. Right, I'm sending you the link to the EF Prof platform. That's where you'll get most of the information. This is constantly updated, and it's free to sign up as well. Some people are asking if there are any recruitment opportunities in the French curriculum schools and supplementary schools. I'm training in my PGCE now. Yes, I would strongly encourage to contact these schools because they may have opportunities. I'm especially thinking about the French supplementary schools. They are constantly looking for new people to work with them. So please do contact them. There's the link on the presentation. I will share this PowerPoint. Someone is asking me, I will share this PowerPoint right away in the next 5 minutes or 10 minutes or so on EF Prof. So if you sign up on EF Prof now, you'll be good to go. Let me just see if I can share the EF Prof signing up maybe page. I'm going to try and share the sign up platform now. Yes, so if you bear with me 1 second. Okay, there you go. Here is the link to sign up for free on the platform. It only takes a few minutes. Thanks again for watching. Merci à tous et à toutes. And thanks a lot for the nice comments. I'm reading Hazel who's saying, thank you, it's been really informative. It made me more confident about the resources that I could find to support school in my school. Merci, that's very, very kind. Thanks a lot. Thank you, everyone. And hopefully see you soon at the Institut Français or one of the Alliances Françaises in the UK. Merci à toutes et à tous. I don't know if Jonathan is around, the organizer of Language Show, if you'd like to tell me something, but that's fine. I'm fine to stay on more a bit. If there are any other questions, do not hesitate. I'm here. And also something else, this presentation will be available on replay, if I understand. So, so you'll be able to watch it again. Thank you very much for all your kind words. Merci beaucoup. À bientôt et je vous souhaite une excellente journée. Have a nice Sunday, everyone. Au revoir.